gilded halls of Westminster, an unassuming community centre, squat, utilitarian, and with a parking lot whose potholes overflow with water whenever it rains, has become the centre of power in British politics. Here, in rooms more accustomed to hosting bingo nights, dance classes, sports watch parties and weddings, Greater Manchester Mayor Andy Burnham's campaign team is plotting his return to Parliament. If he succeeds, it is likely he will challenge Britain's Prime Minister Keir Starmer for leadership of the centre-left governing Labour Party, and so the premiership. Lionel Messi marked his record 6th World Cup appearance with his first hat-trick at a FIFA tournament, also becoming the joint highest scorer at a World Cup, as Argentina beat Algeria 3 to open the defence of their global crown. The former 38-year-old forward thought he had opened the scoring in the 8th minute Kansas City's on Tuesday. He slotted home from close range, but the offside flag was raised.
The United States government has intervened on the side of Elon Musk's XAI in a legal dispute over a $20 BN data center, claiming that efforts to block a related power project threaten national security. In a court motion filed this week, the Department of Justice requested the dismissal of a lawsuit accusing XAI of illegally operating dozens of natural gas turbines erected to power the Colossus II data center in Memphis, Tennessee.
Lahore. The Punjab government on Tuesday proposed increasing Abhiana, water charges, token tax and agriculture to in-20 tax under the Punjab Finance Bill 2026 in order to widen the provincial tax base. The government plans to collect Rs 748.70 billion in taxes, which is 42.69% more than last year's target of 524.70 BN.
Lahore. The Punjab government on Tuesday allocated $750 billion for the education sector 26-27 annual budget, including funds for schools, colleges and universities. The government claimed that the allocation, constituting around 15% of the provincial budget, was aimed at improving quality education and supporting students' infrastructure, supporting across the province, enhancing access to students' province.
Province surrenders 749 to National Exchequer. Social sector gets largest share at 333.666. Infrastructure allocating 17.24. Production sector gets 103s. 25 BN. Transport gets bulk of services funds at 78.5 HOR. The Punjab government on Tuesday unveiled a scaled-down R752 billion annual development programme, ADP, for the next fiscal year, down about 40% from last year's 1,240 BN, after surrendering 749 BN to the National Exchequer, with social sectors receiving the largest share of development spending, followed by infrastructure and production-related sectors.
Erling Haaland scored twice in his World Cup debut as Norway powered past Iraq to win 4-1 in their Group I opener in Boston. The Manchester City striker scored his first goals at a major international tournament on Tuesday as Norway returned to the World Cup for the first time in 28 years.
New York. Oil prices fell about 5% to a 3-month low on Tuesday, as traders hoped the US and Iran would agree to end the war and allow oil to flow through the Strait of Hormuz. Prices, which were already down about 4 PC Tuesday morning, extended those losses following a Wall Street Journal report that the US would allow Iran to immediately begin selling oil and fuel under the Memorandum of Understanding.
East Rutherford. Kylian Mbappe scored twice as France shook themselves awake after a sleepy first half on Tuesday to beat Senegal 3-1 in New Jersey Stadium for a perfect start to their World Cup campaign, while the Africans had looked the stronger team in the first half of the Group I match. The second period was a different matter, as French class ultimately proved the difference. In a dramatic turn of events, the US and Iran have agreed on a framework for peace talks. While the details of the deal reached after months of intense back-channel negotiations mediated by Pakistan and supported by other regional countries, have yet to be made public, this development has raised hopes of ending an irrational war that the US has lost. The tentative pact provides a space of 60 days to conclude a comprehensive peace agreement that remains a significant challenge. There's still a long way to go before such an agreement is reached. There has been a noticeable shift in President Donald Trump's previously aggressive tone. However, several complex issues need to be addressed during this period. These include deferred nuclear talks, the future governance of the Strait of Hormuz, the release of frozen Iranian assets, and the lifting of the sanctions on Iran. Meanwhile, Israel's refusal to participate in the process and its ongoing invasion of Lebanon could undermine peace negotiations. Nairobi, Kenya. The death of a 17-year-old schoolboy during protests against a planned US Ebola quarantine facility has transformed a public health project into one of Kenya's most contentious political controversies this year. 3 people have now been killed, a court challenge has halted construction, and the proposed 50-bed centre at Laikipia Air Base in Nanyuki has triggered fierce debate over public participation, sovereignty, and foreign influence. Any doubts about Kylian Mbappe's status as one of the world's greatest footballers were laid to rest when he statistically topped the charts with 2 goals as France beat Senegal 3-1 in their opening game of the World Cup. The 27-year-old became France's record scorer on Tuesday, overtaking Olivier Giroud with 58 goals. In a full-circle moment, Giroud, a commentator at Tuesday's match against Senegal, congratulated Mbappe live on air when he netted again in the 96th minute.
The minority leader of the United States House of Representatives has urged Secretary of State Marco Rubio to allow the mother of Cape Verde goalkeeper Vozinha to enter the country and watch her son play at the World Cup. Ana Candida Evora was unable to travel to watch her son star in a goalless draw with Spain due to the cost of a bond payment for a visa to enter the US. United States officials have confirmed that Iran's team will have to leave the country within hours of the full-time whistle at their World Cup group games in Los Angeles and Seattle. The response from the World Cup 2026 co-host nation came on Tuesday following criticism of its handling of the Iranian team's visa and stay in the US after their first game.
Panel on the Brazilian Supreme Court has voted to convict Eduardo Bolsonaro of lobbying the United States to interfere in the trial of his father, former right-wing President Jair Bolsonaro. On Tuesday, 3 of the 4 justices on the panel voted in favor of conviction, with 1 remaining justice yet to vote. Anthropic is having a month. The AI lab finished May by surpassing OpenAI in market share of business spending for the first time. Ramp just revealed. It raised $65 billion at a $965 billion valuation, also besting OpenAI at the end of May, then waltzed into June by filing confidential paperwork for an IPO, reportedly on the strength of its first ever profitable quarter.
Kylian Mbappe scored twice as France launched their bid for a 3rd World Cup crown with a 3-1 victory over Senegal in Group A. Real Madrid star Mbappe took his career World Cup goals tally to 14, just 2 behind all-time leader Miroslav Klose, and Bradley Barcola was also on target as Les Bleus secured all 3 points for Didier Deschamps' side on Tuesday.
A Canadian court has dismissed an appeal by Ghana midfielder Thomas Partey after he was denied entry into the country for his team's game against Panama at the World Cup. The Canadian government last week refused a visa for Partey, 33, after which his lawyers launched a last-minute appeal to the federal court in Ottawa, but the appeal was lost on Tuesday. Apple's plan to change a privacy feature that lets paying customers hide their real email addresses when creating online accounts could make it easier for apps and websites to block anonymous sign-ups. Apple's Hide My Email is an iCloud Plus feature that generates anonymous email addresses under the @icloud.com domain, which then forward messages to a person's real email address. The reason these privately generated email addresses work is because they cannot be distinguished from regular Apple users, whose email addresses also use the @icloud.com domain.
The US-Iran deal and Russia's war on Ukraine has taken center stage at the G7 summit in France. Here's what came out of today's talks.
The administration of United States President Donald Trump has announced criminal charges against 15 Minnesota activists described as members of Antifa, the loose-knit anti-fascist organization. At a news conference on Tuesday, U.S. Attorney Daniel Rosen tied the charges to Trump's directive last year to counter domestic terrorism and organized political violence.
SpaceX briefly passed Amazon to become the fifth most valuable company in the world and nearly eclipsed Microsoft before the company's shares pared back those gains before the market closed Tuesday. The newly public company's stock had already climbed 20% on Monday, its first full day of trading. Tuesday's news that SpaceX was acquiring AI coding company Cursor, along with the start of options trading on SpaceX's shares, sent the share price even higher, spiking its valuation to $2.9 trillion before it ultimately settled back down. A Russian warship in the English Channel fired warning shots several hundred yards in front of UK-flagged yacht that appeared to be sailing on a collision course with it on Tuesday, according to Russia's defence ministry. The yacht did not report any injuries or damage and is continuing its journey. An agreement between the US and Iran has all but ended the war, with both sides claiming victory despite the huge cost. Iran's relationship with its Gulf neighbours, which it attacked during the war, has been damaged. A United States federal judge has upheld the conviction of Hannah Dugan, a former Wisconsin judge who was convicted of helping a man evade federal immigration agents who came to her courtroom. U.S. District Judge Lynn Adelman had previously postponed Dugan's sentencing to consider efforts to overturn her conviction, but declined to do so in a decision on Tuesday.
The current Ebola outbreak in the Democratic Republic of Congo, DRC, could become deadlier than the worst outbreak on record, which killed more than 11,000 people, says the head of Africa's Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, Africa CDC. The number of confirmed cases in the country, including increased to 896 deaths, government data showed on 6 death data showed on Tuesday.
More than 400 cats destined for slaughter have been rescued in Vietnam after authorities dismantled an alleged feline theft ring. An animal welfare group has said 9 people have been arrested in connection with what police described as a criminal group specialising in stealing and collecting cats, according to the official newspaper of Ho Chi Minh City Police.
Republican Governor of Ohio Mike DeWine has announced that he now opposes the death penalty, calling for an end to the punishment he once helped revive in his state. During a news conference on Tuesday, DeWine explained that, as a young prosecutor and elected official, he once believed that capital punishment could serve as a deterrent to crime. But that argument, he said, no longer stands up to scrutiny. A security researcher said she was able to access several internal FIFA platforms due to a simple security flaw, which allowed her to watch and have full control of the TV stream of every World Cup game. The researcher, who goes by Bob the Hacker, said she simply registered as a player agent on FIFA's official agent registration platform. Then, thanks to having that account and a flaw in FIFA's back-end API, which didn't check if a user actually had the proper authorization, she was able to access several internal FIFA platforms.
Qualcomm CEO Cristiano Amon said Tuesday that the company is working on over 40 different AI wearable devices, including jewelry, earbuds with cameras, pins and watches, a sign of how aggressively the chipmaker is betting that the next major computing platform won't be a phone at all. To power that vision, Qualcomm is announcing two new offerings. A platform called Snapdragon Reality Elite for mixed reality glasses, designed to run more powerful on-device AI, and the scalable turnkey AI-ready toolkit, START, a combination of hardware modules and a software stack for AI devices, starting with smart glasses.